Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your Ultima Lucha 2 preview and predictions. This is going to be an amazing show. There are a few matches that are going to happen that we don't even know exactly what order they're going to happen in or who's going to be in a couple of them. But what we do know is that Ultima Lucha 1 was easily the show of the year in 2015, and I expect nothing less from Dose.
Oh, Dose's card is looking absolutely stacked, and you figure this card is going to be spread out over 3 weeks, with the third week being a 2-hour extravaganza. So overall, Ultima Lucha Dose is going to be 4 hours, which is the equivalent of any WWE WrestleMania in the last few years.
Well,
So
except for this year where it was 7 hours.
that's true. Oh my God, the network be damned. But yeah, I mean, you get the point. Like, the hype is quite real, and they're spreading it out. I can't wait, and not just the matches, but I think narratively speaking, in terms of their cinematics, I think we're also going to get some huge revelations. Ultima Lucha Dos is going to leave quite an indelible mark upon us all.
Yeah, man, this show is going to be phenomenal. And that being said, do you want to get right into our predictions?
Oh, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so we know how many matches there are between these 4 hours, but what we don't know is the order. And we know that we're also going to have the For a Unique Opportunity tournament, but we don't know who's going to be facing who in the semifinals, or in the first round, rather, of the tournament.
That's correct.
So we're going to have to kind of improvise a little bit here. I would say the For a Unique Opportunity tournament is probably the one kind of thing that has the least actual story going into it. So do you want to start by attempting to predict that, or at least predicting the semifinals?
That's perfectly fine with me, bro.
Okay, so it's probably safe to assume that the semifinals matches are going to take place over the first 2 hours, and then the finals of this tournament are going to take place on the final night of the 2 hour special.
Right.
So let's just look at the four men involved in this. We've got Son of Havoc, Cage, the Mac, and Tejano.
Yes.
So who do you think is going to face who in the first round?
Okay, first round, my matches are honestly quite simple. I'm thinking of Son of Havoc versus Tejano and the Mac versus Cage.
And you know what? I am trying to think of ways to get Son of Havoc and Cage to be in the finals, and that's the best way I can think of, so I agree with you.
Plus, I love it because it's a little wink at the first Ultima Lucha where
Yeah,
Cage and the
Cage
Mac
versus
face
the
each
Mac.
other.
The Machine versus the Mac.
Exactly. So, a little bit of a return match, which I think is cool. You know, shows consistency there. Plus, a Son of Havoc and Tejano is a fresh matchup. And I'll just tell you right now, dude, and I think you're thinking the same thing. My final is looking like Son of Havoc versus Cage. That would mean Son of Havoc beats Tejano and Cage beats the Mac.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there as well, but I do think we're going to have different winners, because I know you said on our last episode of Lucha Underground Twitwow that you think Son of Havoc is winning, or that you think that Cage is winning, rather, and I personally am picking Son of Havoc to win.
Yeah, I want Son of Havoc to win, so this is one of those cases where I want you to be right, and
Well,
I
and it's the
want to be
same
wrong.
way with both of us, remember, because I want Cage to win, but I think Son of Havoc's going to win, and you're the exact opposite.
Exactly. I personally, I think Son of Havoc's time is near. I would love for it to be now, but I can't ignore all the work they've done with Cage this season, and he took Matanza to the limit. And I think that's territory that Lucha Underground wants to revisit. You know, it's weird. I keep saying that Son of Havoc's time is at hand, and I truly believe it. But if you look at Cage's development from the first season to now, he's also another guy that you could rightly contend is primed for a world title run. So I do think he's going to win For a Unique Opportunity, which is a shame because, man, I'd pop so hard for Havoc. But yeah, I got to go with Cage here.
Yeah, man. I'm going with Son of Havoc, and you're going with Cage. So even though we've had a lot of agreements so far on who's facing who and who's winning the first round matches, our first disagreement comes in who's winning the unique opportunity.
The first disagreement of potentially many. I mean, if the first Ultima Lucha preview predictions was any indication, we've got a lot more disagreements to come. So
And
we'll
it's
see.
hilarious, too, because we want each other to be right, and we don't want ourselves to be right.
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
All right, so up next, I'm trying my hardest to try and think of just as far as match order goes, which matches have had the least amount of build-up.
Right.
And I think that up next would almost have to be the trios titles or Black Lotus versus Azteca Jr.
I think Black Lotus versus Azteca Jr., honestly.
The only
Because
reason I say that might have had more build than the trios titles is because if you think about it, that goes back to between seasons 1 and 2.
that is true. You know what? Let's just do the trios titles, man, because I have a theory anyway that I'd just like to get out on the table.
Ooh, okay. I want to hear your theory before I even make my pick. I was going to pick first and everything, but you say you've got a theory, so let's hear it.
Well, I mean, I hope you don't mind because it does jump the gun also to the Evil East Taya match.
Yeah.
So you don't mind, right?
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
I think and I hate to say it because you know Mundo's my boy, so this is another case where I hope to be wrong, but I think the aerial assholes are losing, but Taya's going to win her match, thereby strengthening the notion that she really is the best part of the group and that Mundo is dependent on her, not the other way around. So, yeah, I think Taya's beating Evil East, but assuming that she's not going to be in the corner of the aerial assholes, then I think they're dropping those titles, which is a shame because damn, Mundo with a championship. That's just everything right with the world, but I think it's going to come to an end. Which is a shame, too, because I've been making this big joke about the new streak. You know, he's 1-0 right now. I'd love to see him go 2-0, but I'm really just not thinking it's going to happen. So I'm picking Drago, Aerostar, and Phoenix to become the new Trios champions.
What do you mean he's 1-0? Isn't he like 6-0 at this point? He's got a streak going on that's actually...
Well, no, I mean at Ultima Lucha specifically, because last
year...
Alberto
yeah. Oh, well, man, for what it's worth, I agree with you halfway.
Okay.
I agree with you that Taya is winning.
Right.
But I don't agree that the aerial assholes are losing.
Hey, that's actually a vote of confidence to me that Mundo's probably still going to be a champion because
I am picking all 4 members of Worldwide Underground to win their respective matches.
I hope you're right, dude, because I love those guys.
Legitimately, that is like the most entertaining thing going in Lucha Underground right now, and that speaks volumes because the entire show is like beyond an A+ from an entertainment factor.
Yeah, man. I completely agree with you. I love those guys to death.
And I think that just from a Wrestling 101 writing / booking perspective, you've got 3 heel champions with charisma out the ass. And you've got these guys acting like complete jerks and assholes and just pricks. And it makes all the sense in the world to give them a long run because then when they finally do drop the belts, it'll mean more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, what I envision personally, going against what my senses are telling me, if I was doing what I want, I would do, Worldwide Underground, they win their matches, Aerial Assholes would go on this huge run, and then when they drop their belts, that would be like the main event of an episode of Lucha Underground, and the crowd, I think, would go freaking nuts. Like when,
and especially if it was against like an awesome upcoming scrappy trio that like feel like underdogs.
Exactly. Like, I love, dude, everything that you're putting down. I just can't bring myself over to that side of the aisle, despite how desperately I want to. Something's just telling me, yeah, Phoenix, Drago, and Aerostar are going to get theirs, and in a good way. You might be
right. The beautiful thing about Lucha Underground is that either one of us could be right, and it would make all the sense in the world because we know that they're good enough to write it in a way that actually makes sense no matter how they do it.
Really, the only argumentation I'm bringing, as you know, again, just to reiterate, is that Taya is the glue that holds everything together. So I think she's going to shine at Ultima Lucha Dos. My boy Mundo.
I think she and Evil East are going to have a really underrated match. I think that's going to be a match that's going to be like a 4.5 star kind of match that because it's 2 women, people are going to be like, oh yeah, it was all right, 3 3/4 stars, whatever.
I think it'll be the underrated match, like I thought personally that Cage and Mac was last year at Ultima Lucha. I think they're going to go. They're going to do something really special. But, because the card is of such a magnitude, people I think are going to have a tendency to overlook it, which is a shame because they're 2 of the best women in wrestling right now.
Well, and we've got all of those predictions out of the way. So you know what else might be one of those super underrated type crazy matches that ends up being way better than anyone expects it to be?
What's that?
Black Lotus versus Dragon Azteca Jr.
Bro, I got to give you the floor first on this one. What are you thinking here?
So, it's a weird combination of excited but also nervous because, we've been waiting for Black Lotus to get in the ring since episode, I think single-digit episodes of season 1, 7 or 8, somewhere around there. It's been that long that she's been teased, And like we were seeing her in the temple, but we didn't know who she was or what her business was. But then as soon as we find out, okay, this chick's name is Black Lotus, this is her story, this is her motivation, she didn't show up in the temple for over a year after that.
Right.
Like once we actually found out who she wasn't in the temple anymore. And we've only seen her in the temple one time since then, and it was just her stepping out of Cueto's office with Cueto when Cueto informed uh, Pentagon that he could take Chavo's place in that 6-on-6 match.
Right, right.
And now we're finally going to get to see her actually compete. And I don't remember how good she is in the ring, but she was in WWE's version of ECW, and I think she was an in-ring competitor. I don't think that she was like a manager valet type, but I don't remember if she's good or not. And that's what I'm nervous about, because like if she gets in there and like, I mean, as Dragon Azteca Jr. could probably put on a crazy good match with a broomstick, but I just don't want it to be awkward. I want her to be freaking amazing, and I want them to have awesome kung fu exchanges like you'd see in a freaking Jackie Chan movie or a freaking Jet Li movie or something like that. And I want this match to be a freaking show stealer, and I think it can be, but I'm not confident in saying that it will be because I don't know or remember how good Black Lotus is in the ring.
Before I really formally give my prediction and assessment, can I just say how fucking great the storytelling in this match has been? From season one, like, they took all the time and the effort to clearly establish Black Lotus character-wise, her personality, her motivations, everything. El Dragon Azteca Jr., I don't feel like they've had as much time, but thanks to the comics and what they've done in season two, no wasted motion there either. I feel like he's in the same kind of place. So, narratively, this match is a thing of beauty. Oh my god, I love it.
It's
I love it.
really cool too because you've also got sort of the House of Cards situation with Cueto where he's playing both sides against each other.
Exactly. Exactly. And both of them are completely aloof to it. That's the thing I think really makes this work. You'd think that El Dragon Azteca Jr. would be more like, oh, Cueto might be lying, but he's so blinded by his own stuff because we know throughout season two, his big thing has been, oh, I gotta get vengeance for the original El Dragon Azteca. I've gotta get vengeance for him. And even telling Ray, like, how would you have known what he would have wanted? And stuff like that. So, like, he is consumed by this. Black Lotus, again, we already know her motivations and stuff like that. That was incredibly detailed in season one. So, this collision course is pure artwork. In ring, I have the same kind of nervousness as you, but also this, like, really deep intrigue. What's she going to bring to the table? What's she packing? And stuff like that. And then who goes over? That's the rub. Because I'm trying to think what makes more narrative sense, and honestly, I'm gonna say El Dragon Azteca Jr. wins. I'm so tempted to say Black Lotus, but you know what? How often is it that a performer on Lucha Underground wins on their debut, and something just tells me that El Dragon Azteca Jr. is gonna win, and that may, I don't know, potentially cause future tension between Black Lotus and Cueto. So I'm gonna potentially go against the grain here. I don't know what the rest of the LU community is thinking, and say that I think El Dragon Azteca Jr. is winning.
Okay. Wow. Well, I gotta say, man, I think you might be overlooking something here.
Which is,
Women do not necessarily tend to lose on their debuts in Lucha Underground.
hmm,
Cobra Moon won her debut.
right,
Sexy Star won her debut.
right.
I don't remember Evalise's debut, but I think
She
might have
lost.
lost. Yeah, I think it was a tag match, right?
Uh,
It was her and Son of Havoc against Chavo and Sexy Star.
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. But just kind of Taya, I forget what her debut was. Her debut match against Cage.
Yeah, and she lost that.
Yeah, so we're half and half here.
Okay.
We're 50-50. Two women won their debuts, two women lost their debuts. It's not quite as lopsided as it is with the men, where probably close to 80% of the debuting men have lost their matches. So it's more of a coin flip than anything with the women.
Right.
That being said, here's what I hope happens.
Okay.
I hope that these two are in the ring and the bell rings and Black Lotus is just amazing. She is more of an ass kicker than we could have ever dreamed of. She knows everything Azteca Jr. is going to do before he does it because she was trained by the same person and she got trained longer than he did.
Right.
She wins.
Okay.
And afterwards, this is again very fantasy based, me kind of reaching. She takes his mask.
Right.
The El Dragon Azteca mask that he got from his mentor.
Exactly.
Now, I think that sets us up for some really interesting stories, but I don't know if they would want to do it because I don't know if they would want to unmask a luchador who hasn't been officially unmasked outside of Lucha Underground yet.
Right.
Because when they unmasked Superfly, he had already been unmasked in AAA before.
Right.
So that would be sort of a different kind of step that I don't know if those are the kind of toes that the Lucha Underground writers would want to step on.
It could happen.
Alternatively, she could yank his mask off, but he could kind of do the cover his face with his hands thing until he gets to the back, and then next time we see him, he could be wearing a different mask that isn't the Dragon Azteca Jr. or the Dragon Azteca specifically mask.
That's a good idea. I like that. This way everybody kind of wins.
And because if you remember from the comics, it established that the Dragon Azteca Jr. mask is extremely powerful.
Yes.
So that could be kind of like not only her, metaphorically beheading the man who represents the man that she thinks killed her parents, but it could also, in a sense, be her stripping Dragon Azteca Jr.'s power away from him.
That'd be very cool. That'd be a very cool path to take.
So that's what I want to happen.
Okay.
Now here's what I think's going to happen.
All right.
I think that we're going to get some really cool kung fu, karate, Bruce Lee kind of exchanges between these two where, they throw a punch and then the other one blocks it and throws a punch and that gets blocked. And they're just like constantly like a freaking DBZ fight where it's just constantly like fists and feet flying and everything gets blocked until one lands.
Right.
That kind of thing. And honestly, I still think Black Lotus is going to win. I am picking Black Lotus to win no matter what happens.
Okay.
But what I think is going to happen is I think that she is going to be looking like she's going to do something that could kill or cripple or maybe even the unmasked thing to Azteca Jr. And either he is going to say something to her or somebody is going to show up. Maybe even the original Azteca isn't dead. And it's going to convince her that, holy shit, Matanza really is the one that killed my family.
Okay, then I have a follow-up question for you, though. If that's what you think is going to happen, is Black Lotus going to be so consumed with rage? Is she going to play a part in the main event of Pentagon versus Matanza?
I don't know. I don't know about that. We will talk about that later, but I don't think so because I think that that'll be kind of one of those things where she'll be so devastated that she's gone on this sort of path of vengeance, and it turned out that she was basically living a lie for this whole time.
Right.
Like, she spent time with Dario Cueto, and he lied to her about her own parents' death. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, yeah.
Like, you don't do that and then get that revelation, and then your instant thought is, oh, well, now I need to kill someone else. No, it's holy shit, how many mistakes have I made? I need to go kill myself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think she would actually go that far, but like that's like a revelatory, like, oh my god, I need to like sit and reflect on my life for a day or three.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, man. Yeah, I'm picking up what you're laying down. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so that's my want versus think.
Okay.
But either way, I'm picking Black Lotus, so that's my pick.
I'm sticking with El Dragon Azteca Jr., so...
And that's fine. I'm going more for narrative. You're going more for just kind of, playing the odds.
Right.
Okay, so now I think we almost have to talk about Prince Puma versus Rey Mysterio Jr.
I hope...
I don't care. This is the one match on this entire card that I am plugging my ears and going, la la la, can't hear you, la la, can't... I'm picking Puma. I don't care.
So you're kind of pulling a me here.
I don't know. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, with how adamant I was about Kevin Owens, or how adamant I could be about Johnny Mundo in some situations.
And how
Adamantly
adamant you were that Roman Reigns was going to win the Royal Rumble before the one that he actually was built to win.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Yes.
Yeah, this is rare for you. But look, man, here's my thing. When I sighed at the beginning, it isn't because I'm not necessarily going against Puma. It's just this is a real toss-up for me.
You know what though? I think my thing is, as angry and annoyed and frustrated as I would be if Ray won, knowing the Lucha Underground's writing team, they would be able to write it in a way that would make me be like, oh, fine, you win, whatever.
See, god damn it. See, like, if this is WWE, I think I'd be even more conflicted. Here's what I'm going to do so we can move this along.
Oh, if this was WWE, Ray's winning all day, every day. They don't know how to build stars.
I mean, that is true. That's a fair
But then
point.
there's also the conflict of Puma isn't going to be sticking around past season 3. So would they build him up to that degree only to have him leave the company as like the guy?
And again, here's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to answer your question at the same time.
Can I say something first?
Yes, floor's yours.
Okay. I feel like if contracts were not an issue and Lucha Underground could build people without fear of them getting raided,
yeah,
Puma winning is a guarantee.
Okay. So now can I say what I want to say?
Please do.
Okay. Your original question, would they build up a guy just for him to leave? I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they would.
And they kind of did that with Del Rio, but at least then he lost at Ultima Lucha.
And see, that we're getting to that.
So maybe Puma will lose at Ultima Lucha 3 since that's his last season.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking. But here's my full thing.
Yeah.
What Lucha Underground thrives on, and I've been saying this a lot with Johnny Mundo, this has been one of my more consistent talking points, is Lucha Underground is so brilliant to take people that may have gotten their fame and establishment somewhere else and kind of taking them and almost making them Lucha Underground guys. Like, I associate Johnny Mundo as a Lucha Underground guy now. Like, I don't even really see the WWE days anymore because he's just been so good. But
it's not like TNA where Kurt Angle, who was the Olympic gold medalist, damn, it's true, with a broken freaking neck in WWE, shows up in TNA and he's the exact same person.
Exactly.
The only example that I can think of that's counter to that with Lucha Underground, though, is Ray. There's nothing different about him here than what he's ever been.
But here's why they get away with it, though. Because Ray, much like Mundo, it's kind of a parallel in certain ways. Ray lost on his debut in Aztec Warfare because Matanza pinned him straight up.
Yeah.
He won Trios Gold, but he won it with 2 other prospects that are organic to Lucha Underground and that they're building, so he shared it. Same way with Johnny Mundo. Johnny Mundo, what was great about his title win was he was sharing it with Jack Evans, who I consider like a really organic Lucha Underground guy, and PJ Black, who might as well be because WWE did diddly fucking squat with him.
Yeah.
So
like 2 or 3-time tag team champion, and they were all crappy reigns that didn't get any kind of highlight or spotlight on them, and then basically just jobbing for the rest of his career until his contract runs out.
Precisely. So what I'm getting at...
There was that one Intercontinental title match at a pay-per-view, though. That was fun.
What I'm getting at...
Sorry.
is that... No, it's fine. It's fine. Is that Lucha Underground is so good about taking veterans or established names, and the utility of those names is building the next generation.
I agree completely. I mean, look no further than Hernandez. He was used to put over Drago last season, which was huge.
Exactly.
And Puma to a lesser degree as well.
So knowing that that's Lucha Underground's kind of mindset about those established guys, I think Ray's losing. And I think it's going to be mileage that benefits them more in the long run, because while Ray is only sticking around, I think, for season 3 as well, and then he may cut and run. I don't know what Ray's going to do. So maybe you could do the same thing with both guys. That is a possibility. I think Puma is more emotionally resonant because we've known him from day one. So you give him the win, and then when he's on the way out, if he's on the way out, maybe a miracle will happen and there will be a last-ditch effort and he'll stick around, which I would love, because Prince Puma is one of the best right now. But I think he will have like a match or a feud or whatever, puts over the opposition, whether Rudo or Technico, like $1 million. And that's the end of Prince Puma. And again, I think they're going to opt for Puma because he's theirs. You know, Ray, I guess, would work in a way because, oh, it's El Rey, it's King, it's Legend. But again, there's that emotional resonance with Puma. He's that original guy, the first ever champion. So, yeah, I think Puma's winning. And then I'm going to go right along with your line of reasoning. He's going to lose at Ultima Lucha 3. And to whoever, I don't know, maybe I would love one last Puma Johnny Mundo match, but I'm not holding my breath. But whoever he loses to, yeah, they're going to be put over big. So that's my prediction.
So you're picking Puma. After all that, you're agreeing with me.
Yeah, I'm picking Puma. Just my reasoning is I wouldn't be afraid about, oh, you know, would they put over somebody who's leaving? Because I think Lucha Underground, they're all about the long con.
Well,
So
you made
yeah,
a point during that whole thing that made me even more confident about it, and that's that Ray's probably leaving too. So what the hell's the difference?
exactly.
Yeah, so like, given that both of their contracts are pretty much in the same status, Puma is the only winner that makes sense in this match.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So now let's talk about Mil Muertes versus King Cuerno. I feel like this is a little bit more cut and dry because of the fact that Cuerno got the win on television the week before Ultima Lucha, and that pissed Mil off, and it's a death match, which is a match that Mil is 1-0 at. I'm picking Mil, and I don't think it's even that much of a discussion to be had.
I completely agree. And look, I'll just tack on to everything you just said, which I think was right on the money for the record. That it's clear to me, but then again, you never know with Lucha Underground. Katrina will be looking to pick back up her beef with Cueto anytime soon now, probably in season 3. And Mill's going to need to look impressive so that it looks like she has a chance to retake control of the temple. So yeah, I say Mill wins.
Well, that was easy, right?
Absolutely.
Now it's time for the hard part. We've got 2 more matches, John. We've got the main event, which we'll be talking about last, the Lucha Underground Championship match between Matanza and Pentagon.
Right.
And we've got Gift of the Gods.
All right, and because Gift of the Gods is elimination, let's run down the 7 competitors, and then you and I will do what we do in every multi-person match. So,
Okay, the competitors are Nightclaw, brand new luchador,
right,
Daga, new luchador for this season, Killshot, Marty the Moth, Sexy Star, Mariposa, another new luchador for the season, and Siniestro de la Muerte.
okay, I'm gonna ask you a question to start, just so we can kind of establish a baseline and then go from there.
Yeah.
I'm not even asking you to rank all 7. I mean, you can if you want, because I know Too Well always goes the extra mile. Who would you like to see? So purely subjective, who would you like to see win this match?
Do you want to try and guess just based on my taste?
If I had to guess on your taste, I would say that you'd want Killshot to win this.
No. But that would probably be third.
Third. Well, then maybe I should thank me, because sometimes you and I are connected mentally. I personally, the top of my list would be Marty the Moth, that I would want to win.
So close. He would be 4th on my list.
So Mariposa, then, if you say so close?
Mariposa. I would love for her to win and get back the heat that she lost in No Mas.
That would be very interesting.
Oh, I want her to win so bad. Because, like, out of all the women in the temple, she and Taya are the only ones that I could see standing eye to eye with Matanza.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. Like, you laugh, but I'm so incredibly serious.
Right, right.
Mariposa and Taya both have a combination of size, strength, agility, and don't back down factor that would cause me to, rather than they're standing across from Mil and I go, oh God, Mil, please don't kill her. Or not Mil, Matanza. They're standing across from Matanza and I go, oh, Matanza, please don't kill her. I would react rather than that. I would be, that's right, kill him. You got this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
And Taya isn't in this match, obviously, so that leaves me with Mariposa because I want her to get a freaking shot. If Sexy Star, which is my pick to win this match, unfortunately, and it's not because I dislike her, it's just because she's probably the 5th or 6th person that I would want to win this match. But if she does win this match like I'm predicting, I can't imagine her across from Matanza. Like, I get that she's this resilient character and all, but there's a point at which your suspension of disbelief kind of gets shattered. And that's kind of like the factor that I would have felt when it was like Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar a couple years ago, where everyone was like hyped and wanting that for WrestleMania. And you and I were both very against that just because it just shatters your suspension of disbelief. And that's what I feel like Sexy Star versus Matanza would be as well. Because like just as an example, we saw Sexy Star versus Big Rick. And not only was he able to basically manhandle her, but he didn't even need to hit a finishing move on her. He just held her shoulders down and pinned her. He was that much stronger than her.
Exactly.
And Matanza is like 10 times stronger than Big Rick.
Because he has a freaking god inside of him.
And he's an Olympic freaking body lifter or weightlifter, bodybuilder, whatever you want to call it. He's not actually. He was an Olympic wrestler, but he looks like an Olympic weightlifter.
Yeah, so we've got one narrative fact and one personal fact, and people still say that Matanza sucks. I don't understand it. But regardless.
Well, but that's the thing, though, is I am officially going to put my, bid in as I'm picking Sexy Star to win. My second pick would be Killshot because I would freaking love him winning. And then my third pick after him would be Nightclaw. But the number one person that I want to win this match is Mariposa.
Dude, I respect that. I love it. I love that you've got, your personal investment for me. I think you know how high I've been on Marty for the longest time. I've gone on record on this podcast and I've said I think he's one of the best heels right now. I fucking love his work. I love that he's a heel where the torment is psychological, and yet he's not even like, say, like Kane-esque, where, yeah, he did psychological torture at times too, but it was always so much scarier because, oh, he's hideous and he's this monster, whatever.
Dude,
no,
yeah. I agree with you. I would love if Marty won. That would be amazing. That would be like a legendary moment in the annals of Lucha Underground history.
But what's so funny is we diverge subjectively, even though we can both respect each other's picks, obviously. But we agree objectively because I, too, think Sexy Star is winning. Something about... See, here's the funny thing, and I wish I would have thought about this sooner, but I'm thinking about it now, so better late than never. That No Mas match, I think, was foreshadowing, wasn't it? Because I think they wanted to show us that Sexy Star can take a beating and keep on ticking. And that's the thing, like, she was bloodied in that match, she was brutalized in that match, and I agree with everything you said about Big Rick and Matanza's, like, his size and his power and all that. Like, you and I, same page. But I think in Lucha Underground's mind, they wanted to do that match to be like, oh, see, Sexy Star, and it is. That's why I love the character. Resilient, unbreakable, but not in that freaking annoying Natalia kind of way, sort of deal. And then they're like, oh, well, she handled Mariposa, she handled the one, boogeyman in the closet. Can she handle the ultimate monster now?
Yeah, but I think that my contention with that sort of line of reasoning is that Sexy Star could handle Mariposa because Mariposa is, like, if you were to line up Sexy Star, Mariposa, and Matanza, there's a clear linear size increase as you go across that. Like, Sexy Star is the smallest, Mariposa is bigger than her, but then Matanza is even bigger than Mariposa. But then the difference there is also that Mariposa took Sexy Star for granted.
Right.
Matanza doesn't know how to take someone for granted.
That's true. Yeah.
Sexy Star, and on top of that, Sexy Star had added motivation of, this bitch tortured me, I'm going to destroy her.
Exactly.
And even with all of that, she was still clinging to life by threads by the end of that match, despite winning it.
And I agree. Again, I'm agreeing with everything you say, which is why if Sexy Star does win,
it'll be, in my opinion, even though I will feel happy because, oh yeah, the good guy won, it'll be disappointing.
I too will be disappointed to a degree, but what accompanies that disappointment, if I'm being honest, is a kind of fascination, because I almost feel like Lucha Underground is kind of like this Houdini of sorts, where like they do things that sometimes you and I can question, and in the back of my mind I'm thinking, okay, well, what's the escape? Like, what's the end game? What are you gonna do with this now?
Yeah.
Because I feel like
it's
you're
like
in a corner.
Freaking Lost, man. Every time something happens that answers a question, it raises 10 more.
Exactly. And you know what? The crazy bastards could make Sexy Star facing Matanza work.
Do you know how I think it could work?
How do you think it could work?
If we got some kind of a comic strip or some kind of a cinematic or something where Sexy Star gets sacrificed to the gods as well.
Oh, see, now this is getting good.
Because from a narrative standpoint, to me, that's the only thing that could make her look viable against Matanza.
I have to agree. I mean, and didn't we even say at the very beginning, I mean, irregardless of Sexy Star, what's the only thing that could beat a god but another god?
Right.
And, like, that would be logic I'd apply even with somebody like Cage. Like, Cage in his mortal form, he came closer than most, still couldn't get the job done. I'm still
Oh,
convinced.
I just thought unless we get, if Matanza, which we'll get to that, but if Matanza walks out of Ultima Lucha with the title for next season, we could have, because Cueto likes to do this, we could have a match with no rules, and then somebody else or multiple other people could interfere in that match on behalf of Sexy Star to help her get the win.
That is true.
But I wouldn't be a big fan of that style of booking, but it's possible.
You know, I'm gonna come right out and say it. And again, like, I love El Lucha Underground rights, and they haven't done anything yet. So I mean, I'm not gonna be totally harsh. But if they were to go that course, I'm not gonna mince words. I'd absolutely hate it. And I think I'd hate it because it seems so contrary to the Sexy Star character.
Yeah.
Like, the Sexy Star character is, I'm strong, I'm not weak, I don't need to lean on anybody. I have been through hell and back, but I am strong enough in myself that I am still standing.
Yeah.
And her title win, because as you know, Ashton, from the very get-go when Twitwell really became those Lucha Underground guys, which I love that, rolls off the tongue so well. I've said that I feel like Sexy Star is going to be the first woman to win the Lucha Underground title. And her title win.
You have been saying that since very early in season 1.
Yeah, and now to think, if she wins Gift of the Gods, she'll be pretty freaking close.
Yeah, I mean, we've had 2 Gift of the Gods cash-ins, but only 1 has been successful, so that's another coin flip.
Yeah, that's very true. But ultimately, her first title win can't go down like that. I think it runs too contrary to the character. I mean, I get what you're saying. I just personally wouldn't like it. I wouldn't, and I know you said you wouldn't be either. So yeah, I mean, Sexy Star wins, but like, where do we go from here? And here's the thing. Is she even going to remain the champion? Because if she waits a while like Phoenix did,
she'll have to defend the yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like, so even if...
Well, and you say like Phoenix did, but that's not really how it happened. He wanted to cash in the first time that we got to season 2, but Katrina was like, no, you have to defend that title first.
And that is true. But here's the thing. I think it's more interesting because while Sexy Star is courageous, I've never really known her to be stupid.
Right.
Except for the time when Superfly came in the ring. Yeah. Superfly, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Why are you just standing there? So she may wait it out. I don't know, dude. It's funny that you and I agree that Sexy Star is winning, but where the frustration arises isn't even with the Gift of the Gods match. It's totally the aftermath. Because I don't know what the hell you do. So I'm just going to
since we're agreeing on this, can we just talk about who we want to win and who we think is going to win as far as rankings go? Because like, I'm looking at these competitors and I'm like mentally creating a list of who I want and think is going to win most from 1 to 7.
Brother, have at it.
Okay. So as far as who I want to win most, I just told you guys Mariposa. 2 would be Killshot. I would not complain one bit if Killshot won. 3 would be Marty because that would just be a legend status. 4 would be Nightclaw. I would freaking love it if a debuting luchador not only won, but won a championship in their debut match. That would be sick.
Right.
5, I would honestly put Siniestro de la Muerta because that would give us a story between him and Mill, where Mill might even want to kill him or at the very least beat the hell out of him in the ring to get that title and use it.
That's very true.
And then 6 would be Sexy. 7 would be Daga. I mean, I don't dislike Daga, but he just really doesn't have anything going for him right now. I'm more interested in if something's going to happen with him and Cobra Moon.
And you know what? It's funny you say that because I'll totally take your number 7 because honestly, anybody chasing the world title, I have a natural investment because, well, it's the freaking world title. But I honestly feel like, yeah, you've got better stuff going on with Cobra Moon, who's amazing. Shout out to Cobra Moon there.
And she's not on this card anywhere, so you know she's going to show up in this match.
She better show up somewhere in this match. Freak Daga out. And especially because it's elimination style, she could cost him this match inadvertently, which would be great. Yep. So we'll see. But yeah, I guess my ranking, 1, Marty. I freaking love his work. I think he's due for something. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll be this, but yeah, I would pop huge for that.
You know, I gotta say, it's funny that you and I are both rooting on the Moth Tribe in this match.
I know, right? Mods forever. 2, Killshot, because what they've done with this character this season, holy balls, amazing.
And then 3, Mariposa?
3 Mariposa. I'd get with you on that. She is fierce, and I think if I put her any lower than that, she'll find out and she'll hurt me. So, personal safety. There. I don't fear for my life at all. What are you talking about? Shut up.
I didn't even say anything. What do you mean?
Hey, I have anxiety problems. But anyway, Nightclaw number 4. I agree with you. Look, a performer winning a championship on their debut worked wonderful for Matanza, and Nightclaw, I think, narratively is coming in with. I mean, I wouldn't say the same amount of intrigue because Matanza was built up for a hell of a long time, but pretty close given the circumstances. So 4 Nightclaw. Again, 7 was Daga. So Sinestro, I think I would put at 6, and Sexy Star I'd put at 5.
That makes sense, though. That's fine.
Yeah, I've honestly not been crazy about Sinestro, which is disappointing because I loved like him ripping the hearts out and all that stuff. It just still hasn't clicked for me yet. So
Honestly, I gotta say, I think even though Lucha Underground always gets stuff like this right, I think they might have tripped up a little bit with Sinestro because they didn't change anything about him other than the fact that, oh, now he comes out by himself.
right.
Like, I feel like if you go back and you watch the scene where he ripped the hearts out, as Katrina is walking away, we see kind of a really cool shot of Sinestro where he's holding the hearts out and he's got this electricity flowing around him and he starts glowing red.
Right, yeah.
The parts that were glowing red in that scene, I feel like should have turned into red parts of his attire.
I completely because they did the same thing with Mill.
Exactly.
You
And
know?
now, like Mill has the red going on now, so they would be matching.
Yeah, totally, dude.
That would be awesome.
Totally agree with you there. I mean, Lucha Underground rarely falters. I do think this was a slight falter on their part, though, with Sinestro, because I love that idea. You just have the hearts kind of seep into the mask and change the overall coloration. I think that's freaking sick.
Yeah.
So, man, Gift of the Gods is going to be so... And Nightclaw, too, just a real quick note, because I have a lot to say about the main event, as I'm sure you do, too. But Nightclaw, I can't wait to see what he does in there, man. I am stoked on that, so here's to hoping for a good outing.
Yeah, I think that match is probably going to take up like a good half hour to 45 minutes of one of these shows.
Which, I mean, and you know what, too, can I say, too, as a side note? So glad they're doing elimination style finally, because that's how I wanted it to be from the first Gift of the Gods. I didn't like that it was one fall to the finish, so I really love that they're doing elimination style. Big fan of that.
So since the Trios titles were on night 1 last year, it's probably safe to assume that they will not be on the 2-hour finale special this year, won't they?
I agree. Yeah, I think they'll be either night 1 or the latest night 2.
So would you agree with me when I say that it's safe to assume that the final night of Ultima Lucha, the ultimate sort of, episode 26, the final episode of the season finale, will get Gift of the Gods, the death match between Muertes and Cuerno, Puma Mysterio, the finals of the Unique Opportunity Tournament, and our main event of the whole thing, the Lucha Underground title match between Matanza and Pentagon Jr.
Did you say that you thought El Dragon Azteca and Black Lotus would be on the final show, or do you think it's going to be night 2?
I don't think that'll be on the final show.
Interesting, because
I think that'll be on maybe the second show.
You know what? I like how your card's looking, man. I'm waffling on whether Azteca Jr. and Black Lotus, simply because of the narrative undertones, would make it to the main event show, but I think I like your structure. I'll go with that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, that said, though, we only have the main event to talk about, Matanza versus Pentagon Jr.
I'm gonna, and I hope you don't mind, Ashton, but I'm gonna pump the brakes for a second here.
Ooh.
Because I think there's something very important to note.
Okay.
And I've been saying this for a while now, and I just want to drive the point home, and I know it's probably getting obnoxious for some.
Oh, boy.
I keep mentioning the cinematics, and how it seems like they've really been reeling back. One cinematic that I'm curious if we're going to get it on either night 1 or night 2 of Ultima Lucha 2, because I don't think we're going to get it on the final night. We still haven't seen the multi-Pentagon scene from the trailer. That still hasn't happened. And I'm wondering how that's going to fix into the main event, because I'm going to ask you this now, and I'm going to field this to you. Am I the only one who kind of has an idea that Matanza might retain in this match?
I'm picking Matanza to retain.
Okay, then I think I'm going to join you. I'm going to say that Matanza, which shocks me, because I feel like Pentagon is another one who's primed for a world title run. But something tells me he's not going to be the one to beat Matanza. So, I mean, what's your reasoning, dude? Walk us through it.
I just don't think that they're ready to take the title off of Matanza yet. I don't think that we've seen peak Matanza. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he's been killing everybody, but I feel like they haven't done enough narratively to make up for the difference between Pentagon's last bout with him and now.
But let's follow that thread for a second because I just mentioned the multi-Pentagon scene that we haven't seen yet. Do you think we're going to get that before? Obviously, I think we'd have to get it before the main event.
Well,
And
and it would be disappointing if we didn't, just because it would be a small detail that they missed out on, and Lucha Underground is known for being amazing at not missing details. But at the same time, I don't necessarily want to go into this assuming that they're going to buff Pentagon up. I would rather just go in assuming that maybe Pentagon will get like a nice pep talk from Vampiro or something. Like, I don't want to assume that something's going to happen that hasn't even really been hinted at is going to happen.
right. Because, my big thing is, oh, we saw it in the trailer. Everything else that's happened on the trailer has shown up. Therefore, this has got to show up
But
at some
that's not
point.
guaranteed to happen.
And you're right.
It
And you're
should be.
right.
It should be. And I trust that Lucha Underground will make it happen. But again, there comes to be a point where maybe we're expecting a little bit too much, thoroughness from them.
That is true. I mean, you got to
Maybe
give
like
everybody.
maybe that scene was supposed to happen in the middle of the season and they just decided to cut it because it just didn't make sense in a certain context.
And that could be. That very well could. And see, that's what makes it so fascinating because the scene in itself, I can't even pinpoint what the context of that scene could be. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because it's just so weird seeing all those Pentagons. Um, I don't know, man. But even casting that aside and ignoring it, because you're right, they may not acknowledge it. If they do, I'm gonna pop because I've been just shoving it like, hey guys, remember the scene still gotta happen, and so it would feel kind of like
And it's
validation.
hilarious too because that scene is actually in the background of every live reaction video we put up.
I know, right? So it's like it's been so dominant, even subconsciously here at Twitwell. It's
Yeah.
like when it finally happens, I'll be like, "Oh, thank God it's so." Like I'm just gonna breathe and be like, "They did it finally." Um,
Dude, you're gonna pop more when that happens than you did when Johnny Mundo won the trios title.
you're not even wrong, and that's so sad. Oh my God, what happened to my life? But
Like,
anyway,
oh my god, it's happening! Multiple Pentagon scene, Austin, it's happening! What's happening?
he's not even wrong, folks. He's not even wrong. But even casting that aside, because you very well could be right. Something about this just doesn't feel right that Pentagon would win. And it's weird because I think you had a phrase in there that we haven't seen peak Matanza. And I think you're absolutely correct. The only way, and it goes back to exactly what we were saying about Sexy Star and to remain consistent, because I said I would say this about anybody, unless there is a scene where Vampiro sacrifices Pentagon and puts a god in him, because Vampiro knows those dark arts too. He dabbles in that shit big time. I can't see Pentagon winning. Because and what did I even say when he got taken out? And I know you agreed with me on this. Pentagon would have to be better than he was to beat Matanza, and I referred to him affectionately as Pentagon 2.0. I haven't seen Pentagon 2.0. Phoenix took him to the limit in 6 to Survive,
Yep.
and I don't think that's a problem that's been adequately redressed. So I feel like
You know what I want to see in this? Actually, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you. You continue on your line of thought, and then I'll say what I want to say.
Oh yeah, I just had a few more words, and the floor is entirely yours. Yeah, I just think Matanza's winning, just to kind of round it out. So what were you gonna say?
You know what I really want to see in this match? And it would piss some people off, but that's almost part of why I want to see it so bad.
I heard you giggling slightly, so I'm curious. What are you packing there?
I want to see Pentagon break Matanza's arm, and Matanza no-sells it.
Honestly, dude, that wouldn't piss me off. I think that'd be totally in line for the Matanza character.
Just Pentagon breaks his arm, and then Matanza stands up, and his arm is like dangling, and then he like snaps it back into place, and he's ready to go. And it's like it never even happened.
And you know what's funny? Like, because WWE did something similar with the Kane character when Seth Rollins wore the leg out with the chair, and then he comes out of the ambulance, and they do that
Right,
like
but
cheese.
Kane doesn't have a god in his body.
And that's exactly why this would work with Matanza, because from the word go, Lucha Underground is show we're not a regular fighting place. Like, there is some weird
Lucha Underground is defining the new kayfabe, people.
Exactly. And I think within their realm of kayfabe, what you just described, entirely plausible, and I'm not gonna lie, the scumbag in me would revel in the rage that would follow probably from that moment. Oh, I guarantee you, at least one person would say, well, they just buried Pentagon, sit the hell down. You don't even know.
Like, I would be fine if Pentagon hit like a package pile driver and that got a 2 count, like a really close, long, like near fall 2 count. But I
Right.
really want Matanza to just completely no sell the arm break.
That would be no, dude. That would be amazing. That would be, and look, especially if it's the Pentagon that again Phoenix took to the limit. Why shouldn't Matanza no sell that arm breaker? You
or
know,
maybe not necessarily better yet, but another option. Pentagon has the left arm trapped and the right arm he's pulling back on it, but Matanza is such a powerhouse that he actually uses Pentagon's leverage against him and pulls him forward.
see now that I think they might go with. See the breaking of the arm, as much as you and I and him no selling it, as much as you and I would love that. I
That
don't
would
know
be
if they want to
so
take the step.
freaking awesome, dude. I would die on the spot.
That would be amazing. And see, I can't put anything past Lucha Underground, but I feel like they'd be more comfortable for the second option that you just put forth.
Dude,
Like, oh, he's such a powerhouse, he used that leverage.
I know, but like I just imagine Pentagon pulls back and you finally see it go all the way, and it's like he stands up and he's like pandering to the crowd, and then Matanza gets up, shakes his arm out, tilts his head a little bit like he's not sure what Pentagon's celebrating about, and then Pentagon turns around to a massive lariat or something. Like, oh God, I want that so bad.
Dude, you know what that reminds me of because I'm such a nerd? That reminds me That reminds me of the infamous DBZ scene, Super Vegeta doing the final flash. He took Cell's arm off and he's laughing about it like big time. And then Cell's like, "You're such a fool." And then he just regenerates the arm and he's just like, "No. This was my push, man. What happened?" And then he just got totally bitched out. That's exactly what that reminds me of. Pentagon just like, "Yeah, that's what you get for breaking my back. We did it, Master Wheat." What the fuck? And then, yeah, arm's not only good as new, but maybe even better. And yeah, he just totally whoops Pentagon's ass. Yeah, I love Pentagon to death. I just don't see this going his way. Yeah, Matanza's retaining.
Yeah, he is, and I can't wait to see how just how far Pentagon gets, how close he gets to winning, but still not quite like all the way.
Yeah, because I mean, right now to me, Cage is the standard bearer for guys that like
Yeah.
come the closest to beat Matanza.
Well, I would say Meal as well because of that the graver consequences. Meal got really close to winning that.
I agree. I would still put Cage slightly above Mill, not by a significant margin.
Well, thanks,
but,
John. Now I want to see them fight each other.
well, you know, there you go. That's what I do. But yeah, we'll see how close Pentagon comes. So
Kind of want Son of Havoc versus Matanza.
that would be amazing. All right, Ashton. I just want to ask you one more thing before we potentially wrap this up.
Okay.
Do you want to do any kind of, and if you don't, that's fine. We can just let it rest here. Did you want to do any speculation or conjecture about any cinematics or any narrative developments outside of these matches?
We have to. We have to at least talk about what might happen, maybe any kind of loose ends that might get wrapped up. And I think that the most important thing is what are they going to tease for next season in the final minutes of the final episode of this season?
Oh, that was so good at the first Ultima Lucha.
That honestly, this is going to sound really stupid, but that probably was my favorite part of the entire season 1. And that's not to say that like, oh, Grave Consequences sucked, or that like All Night Long was awful, or that Puma Meal was a garbage. It wasn't. That was all still amazing, but there was no moment in season 1 that turned me into an actual physical schoolgirl other than the final 5-minute montage.
And I know it. And anybody that goes and watches those live reactions, which you can, it's on the channel, would know it. And I loved it. It was so brilliantly done. And that's the thing, too. Like, and I say this as the biggest compliment in the world. Lucha Underground has a lot of pressure on themselves with this Ultima Lucha dose because the first Ultima Lucha fucking killed it.
Yeah.
Like, I believe they will come in guns blazing. So it's not any kind of doubt. Like, Lucha Underground first time was really great, but good luck with that. No, it's like, no, go out and fucking do it because it's your fucking world and every other promotion is living in it. So yeah, I mean, I have to.
And by
agree.
living, you mean barely scraping by.
Exactly.
They live like the American middle class lives.
There is no middle class.
Exactly.
God, that's depressing. But more importantly, do you? I mean, where do I even begin? Officer Reyes, Meehan.
Oh, dude, I wonder if we'll see a hint of the Lord.
That's what I was going to get around to the Lord.
Oh my God, that's right. Do you have any kind of speculation on who you think the Lord is?
No, dude.
I've
No.
heard so much speculation. Like the
Me
last Real
too.
Heels guys are convinced that it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, just because Eric Van Wagenen, or Van Wagenen, I think it is directing The Apprentice, or not? Is it? Is that what it's called?
Uh,
The Donald Trump show,
yeah, The Apprentice. Yeah, you're right.
and Arnold Schwarzenegger is the main guy on it this season.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's that connection, and plus, like Arnold Schwarzenegger is all over the El Rey network.
Right, right.
This past episode of Lucha Underground was following an episode of, or not an episode, the movie The Running Man. So, you know,
How would you feel about it being a Schwarzenegger? Because I'll be honest, I'd be.
he's so a like. I get that he's a big star, and if it would bring eyes to Lucha Underground, I wouldn't even be able to complain, just because that's the end game. Like, just bring eyes to the product is the freaking end game, and keep it amazing as it is. But still,
Right.
I just, it would disappoint me because he's not a part of the Lucha family. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, dude, because I was even going to say, like, I get it, because I think all wrestling promotions that, vie to be something
Yeah.
have to make concessions like that. So I
Like,
get it.
it would be like the Jeremy Piven Summerfest thing. Like, everything
Yeah,
saying feels disingenuous.
exactly, exactly. I mean, I don't want to be this Puritan in the sense of, like, no outsider, and then, like rip throats
I
out.
mean, you say that, that's kind of how I feel. I'm very defensive about my lucha, okay?
I mean, I'm the same way. I'll go Matanza on somebody, all right,
I'll sick Matanza on somebody.
But
I have keys.
here's the thing, and this is just me being truthful. I'm anticipating something with the Lord, but given Lucha Underground precedent, I'm not sweating too much over it, because I think they are gonna tease us so bad with this shit.
Here's the thing. Like, I have this inkling that I've been saying for months now that it is Dario Cueto and Matanza's father.
Yes.
And it fits so well. And all I want is for Cueto to be sitting in his office, and Delgado walks in and his lord follows behind him, and next thing you know, Dario says, "Hi, Papa." Ah!
Lucha Underground outro music.
God, that would kill me on the inside.
Oh
Like,
my
if you want to ramp up the anticipation for season 3, come on. That wouldn't just get me excited for the new season. That would get me excited for the new comics too, because they reveal more on those than on the show.
Yeah, dude, and that's another thing too. Those fucking I can't wait for the next batch of comics.
It is amazing to me how much stuff was on the comics that people ask questions about that didn't read the comics.
I know, like, come on, people, show up to the freaking game. Like, I don't know, man. Whenever
The one that I heard actually from the Facelock Feministas was, I think that Dario Cueto has that Red Bull because he's in the Bull tribe. Now, don't get me wrong. He probably might be from the Bull tribe. I'm not even going to argue that, but he has the bull because it's the weapon that Matanza murdered his mother with.
Exactly.
That's been established, and now I think that was even established on the show. How are you not paying attention there? And then, like, there are a lot of people, and I don't know if this is one that I've actually heard from one of our friend podcasts, like the Feministas or the Last Real Heels or anything like that. But I know that there are a lot of people that are questioning if the Lord is Big Rick, and we know for sure that he's dead. His skull was used to decorate Neil's throne, for God's sakes.
Exactly. Now, look, if I hadn't read the comics, I think I'd even be one of the people putting forth Big Rick, and for no other reason, because this is classic John justification. He had that cinematic where he was, like, in the confessional and doing all that stuff, and I'm like, oh, Lords, and, Big Rick, and Stryker did the Proverbs on commentary.
And
so yeah.
Cigar.
And, Cigar. But you're right, like, we very clearly saw him die in a pretty horrible fashion. It's like, I'll tell you, dude, whenever I recommend Lucha Underground to anybody, I always tell them, consume everything, not because it's needless, but because everything fits. So even the comics, and I say, get done season 1 first, then do the comics, then do season 2. And I'm not gonna lie, I know some of my friends go out of order, and that irks me a little bit because I like when a story's told, cohesively. But yeah, I tell them consume everything because of stuff like this, because you miss things. And Lucha Underground, that's what I love about it. It's not just, and I think I've said this in the past too, it's not just a show, it's an experience. It's something that actively engages you. It's like it's putting this puzzle before you and it's asking you, how many pieces can you put together?
That's my thing too, is that like with like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you can't just watch the movies. Like, sure, it's entertaining and you're gonna love it, and there's nothing wrong with watching the movies, but there's so much more that is as good and of the same quality that actually expands on the universe and fills you in even more.
Exactly.
Like in Marvel, you've got the I forget what they're called, but they're like the little mini movies where like Coulson like finds there was one where like Coulson is having a conversation with Sitwell and they're talking about the I forget what it is, the consultant,
Was it?
and it was talking
Okay.
about Tony Stark and how he drove one of the guys away. And like there are, I forget what the name is, but there are these little short movies, and there are like 5 or 6 of them, and they're all really entertaining. There's one where these two random people use the alien technology that they got from the Chitauri invasion to rob banks, and they end up not only getting caught, but then because they're able to work the alien weaponry and they're so smart that they're able to do that, they end up getting a job with Shield.
Right. Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And of course the TV shows Agents of Shield is amazing. Every single one of the Netflix Marvel shows has been amazing so far. We're up to 3 seasons worth now. Can't wait for Luke Cage to come out. It's going to be amazing. uh it's just, there's no reason to not kind of dive in head first. And I feel the exact same way with Lucha Underground, but it's even easier with Lucha Underground because so far the only thing that they have other than the TV show is the comic, and there are only 4 of them, and they're amazing.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
And
really like. I know that I made that sort of compilation of last time on Lucha Underground stuff that got copyright strike, but what I really want to do between seasons 1 or between seasons 2 and 3, I want to make sort of like a comprehensive beginning to end, this is all of the really important stuff video, and try and keep it under 3 hours, just so that I can post it and be like, hey guys, instead of watching Raw tonight, this is something you can use to catch up on Lucha Underground.
yeah, man. Yeah. See, and I think that's where, because it's funny. I know mentally, like you and I have different traits about us, but I think one thing that just engrosses both of us, like we love a good puzzle, and that's really what I look at Lucha Underground as. It's just this really impressive puzzle that I'm just like, holy shit! And new pieces get introduced every season, every episode, even. Like
Yeah.
it never stops.
Yep.
And to bring that full circle, you've got this Lord now who no idea who it is. Hell,
And
yeah.
something that we haven't even talked about because it hasn't been mentioned since very early in season 2, gods in the form of man. We only have 1 so far that we know of.
I know, dude.
There are
I
at
know.
least 6 more because that's how many tribes there were.
Dude, yeah, you know what? Like, just extreme fantasy booking off the deep end just to get the brain vomit out. I'd love to see all those gods compete for the gift of the gods. Like, because then there'd
Honestly,
be nothing
it
left.
almost feels like that's what Lucha Underground as like a series is building up to, you know?
That would be amazing.
Like, okay, it took 2 seasons to get Matanza. How long is it going to be before we get like the Moth Tribe's god in human form?
Yes.
Or like the frickin' I think there was, oh well, we know there was a snake tribe. So what about the snake tribe's god in human form?
Oh my god.
Like, that's what I'm saying, dude. It's crazy. I love it.
And then personally, like as that match is progressing, I don't know if it would be like an intercut with the cinematic or if you'd want to wait till the end, but because of the ferocity of the battle, like the temple starts shaking and breaking apart. Because like
That
it shouldn't
match
be
by
able to sustain it.
itself as an elimination match could be an entire 2-hour episode of Lucha Underground.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And I don't think it's something that the temple, I mean, realistically, in their universe, the universe shouldn't even be able to sustain it. The temple certainly shouldn't be able to sustain it, in my view, because
But
that's so much
you know
power
what?
in one ring.
I kind of have to think that the temple has some magic retarding abilities. Like it sort of, like if you have powers, at the very, like it might not take them away completely because Katrina can still teleport in the temple.
Right.
But she doesn't teleport all the time.
That is true.
So I legitimately think that there's something about that temple that restricts magical abilities, because we saw what the disciples of death were able to do outside of the temple. They were murdering people with electricity. They can't do that inside the temple.
Right.
So there's something there.
That is true.
So maybe the gods, and maybe that's why Matanza doesn't no-sell literally everything, because his magical abilities from being a god are restricted because of being in the temple.
Let me ask you this, Ashton, to kind of recenter focus, because we did say we'd speculate on cinematics and narrative development outside of the Ultima Lucha 2 card. Is the noose going to tighten around Cueto a little bit? Because between the Vasquez investigation and if that revelation occurs that you think will occur and Black Lotus, finds out. I mean, yeah, even if she doesn't come seeking blood and she goes on a freaking, I need to reevaluate my life kind of quest.
Yeah.
He's not going to have her anymore. And if we're wrong about Matanza retaining and Pentagon wins the championship, what if Ultima Lucha 2 and its aftermath is a really shitty night for Cueto?
Wasn't that kind of what Ultima Lucha 1 already was?
I mean, in
because
a
if you
way,
think about it, Cueto's only real direct competition in the temple is Katrina.
That is true.
And she was on top of the freaking world at the end of Ultima Lucha 1.
And while you have a point there, my retort would be, I don't think Cueto ever really lost control, because let's remember, the only reason he really left was because Black Lotus killed the original Dragon Azteca, which I don't think either one of us would argue was a result that Cueto wanted.
Right.
So,
well, no, I mean, he knew it was going to happen.
He knew it was going to happen, yeah, and he didn't seem too upset about it.
But he planned for it to happen, because
exactly,
when Dragon Azteca was in the cell room, he told him, you know what the penalty for entering this temple is and breaking the agreement, the treaty is, right? Death. And then he was just like, you don't have to kill me, Dario. And he was just like, you're right, I don't, because someone else is going to. And then boom, Black Lotus turns on him and kills him. So Cueto knew that was going to happen. He was planning, and he really planted the seeds for it to happen, because he told Black Lotus, who wanted to kill the man that killed her parents, that it was Dragon Azteca that killed her parents.
And see, that's my thing.
So maybe the unplanned element there was Dragon Azteca showing up inside the temple to save her.
And I could give you that, but my thing is, I don't think Cueto, at least it never came off that way to me. Maybe people would disagree in the comments or elsewhere or whatever. It never felt like to me that he lost control. What looks like what's going to go down at Ultima Lucha 2, I think he's going to go in a freaking tailspin. That's the difference. He may lose control, and he may just freak out, and things may really start to fall apart for him. Do I think they will? No, not necessarily.
Dude, I'm going to say this. I agree with you, but for a different reason.
Okay.
I think he's going to get taken in.
So you think they are going to be able to book him and get him on something?
I don't know if they're going to be able to book him, but I think he's going to get arrested and indicted.
Okay.
I think that Joey or officers Meehan and Reyes are going to end up, because they aren't on the show either. So they've got to be doing something in cinematics. So I think they're going to show up and arrest Dario Cueto.
Interesting.
And that might even be in the post-credit scene, because he's probably going to be at ringside for the Matanza fight.
You know what intrigues me so much about that story?
Oh my God, season 3 Matanza is going to not have anyone telling him what to do.
Oh my God.
At least at the beginning of the season. That's a prediction right there, and I'm making it right now.
That has such a Majin Buu Bobbity feel of it to me, and that's a second DBZ reference I've made, but I think it fits. I think it really fits, because
DBZ, it feels like DBZ told every story possible to be told, though. So if it feels like Lucha Underground's doing some similar stuff, it's not because they're ripping off from DBZ. It's just a coincidence, and they both happen to think of the same awesome thing in different times.
Exactly. It's an overlap and nothing more, in my book. But here's where and I've had this curiosity for a while, and I think I'm only vocalizing it for the first time. I wonder with Meehan and Reyes, when the investigation's over, are they really going to be able to part from the temple? Because what if there's a part of them that loves it, that loves the whole underground fighting element and all that stuff?
I mean, here's the thing. I feel like if anybody in that temple found out that they were cops, they'd want to kill him or them.
Right.
So I think they are going to arrest Cueto, and they are going to bring him in for questioning at the very least. But I also think that they're going to continue under the guise as Joey Ryan and Cortez Castro exclusively for the sake of keeping up appearances. But when Cueto actually ends up behind bars, maybe then they can go into some kind of witness protection deal.
Which would be very interesting.
But obviously, Cueto's never going to actually be behind bars because that would kill the story, and he's way too smart for that to happen anyway.
Exactly.
Or
Um,
dude, my mind is just turning at a million miles an hour right now. What if Cueto gets arrested, but he gets bailed out of the questioning room by the Lord, who also is his father,
ooh.
because he doesn't want Dario to tell any information about himself.
Ooh, I like that, dude. See, a lot of that hinges on you being right initially that the Lord
And
is Cueto's
oh,
father, but I love it.
you said that you wanted Cueto to not be in control of the temple in season 3. Well, he won't be, because his father will be in control under the guise of, if you try and take any control or do anything without my permission, I'll send you right back to the county office.
Oh, what power
Dude,
play!
that's all Cueto's father is about, though, is power. Power, power, power. He created Matanza because it was a power play. He's been referred to as more powerful than the mayor of Boyle Heights. I'm telling you, man, it's happening.
Oh man, I hope you're right, dude. I really
Oh my
hope you're
god.
right
I am
because
going
that
out on such a long limb right now, but I would not have it any other way.
that is a narrative fucking goldmine, though. Here's another question, though, just so we hit upon as much as we can. Is Aerostar going to reconvene with the tribes in the last few
That
minutes?
is something that I really wanted to see. Like, I was even going to bring up, while you were talking about something earlier, I was thinking, oh, I got to bring up Aerostar because he needs to have some kind of a cinematic tease for season 3 too.
Um,
Maybe he takes Drago back there so they can see a dragon from the future.
maybe.
Or maybe
Holy
it's
shit.
maybe him, Drago, and Phoenix all go to the past.
And now let me just ask you something, just so I can frame what I want to say. And if you say no, then I'll
This
just
is
discard
freaking ridiculous, dude. We're over an hour. We're just talking about nonsense, and it's amazing because it's literally
it.
on the ground.
do do Drago and Phoenix, are they representative of any tribes themselves, or no?
I think Phoenix might be, but I don't know about Drago.
Yeah, see, because for
No,
Aerostar,
was a Phoenix, but I do think that one of the medallions has a bird on it.
right.
I think.
Because my thing is, Aerostar, his big goal was unifying the tribes. And what if his team winning the Trios Championship is kind of symbolic of that? Like, he brings back the gold and he says, I've completed step 1, now, like, step 2 or something. I just think he's going to reconnect with these tribes at the end of the season because that cinematic, I don't want to get lost in the shuffle. That was a very important plot point,
Yeah.
that cinematic. And I don't want it to get lost because it happened so early in the season and so much has happened with the Lord and everything else that I think a lot of people would forget it, which thank goodness we're here. But, I do think he's going to touch base with them again and update them on his progress or lack thereof because he was one of my picks to win the first Gift of the Gods match because I thought he was going to bring that back to them. Maybe he'll bring Trios Gold back to them. But then again, maybe I'm just trying to convince myself because I did say that team were going to win the titles. I just can't help but feel like gold or no gold, Aerostar is going to touch base with these tribes again, and maybe they're going to finally get more in depth about what the course of action is.
Yeah.
That's going to be really interesting to me.
Man, I love this show so much.
It's so fucking good, dude.
It's like the fact that we can have this long of a discussion, and we've literally covered 2 storylines, 3 if you count the Lord as a separate storyline.
Right.
And like, I feel like we've barely even touched the iceberg. Like, is Angelico coming back anytime soon?
I miss him, dude.
That's like, whenever someone's gone from WWE, we always kind of evaluate whether we really feel their absence or not. And I have felt Angelico's absence for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
God, is there anything else to talk about, like narrative wise? Because I feel like we did hit the biggest things. It's just
Worldwide Underground.
worldwide underground, baby. Oh man, it's gonna be such a great night for the perfect woman, Taya, and those aerial assholes. Hopefully, they might do something. I don't know, man. I don't know. I love it, but I don't know. Anything else you want to say, man?
I can't wait to see Nightclaw.
Oh, dude, Nightcrawl's gonna kick ass.
I
I
can't
hope
wait.
he kicks ass.
And if it is, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're trying to avoid spoilers, even to the degree that you don't want to know who's under which masks, use the letter L on your keyboard to skip forward 10 seconds right now. I've heard it's Flamita.
I've heard that too. I have no idea who that is though, so it's still new to
Okay.
me.
Well, he's an amazing luchador, and I've seen his matches. I've actually seen a match that was him versus, I want to say at the time, it was Samurai del Sol, who's now Kalisto.
Oh, okay.
And it was a
Okay.
freaking awesome, fun match.
Sweet.
So, like, again, we're past the 10-second spoiler section, so I'm going to not actually mention his name again for those of you that skipped. But I'm excited, but it's so weird because the guy that we're referring to that we think it might be is smaller, and like Nightclaw looks huge based on the vignette we've seen him in.
Dude, that vignette gave me chills.
Yeah.
And you know what, too? Whether he wins or loses, that's another narrative piece of the puzzle because Jaguar tribe. And, like,
Yeah. And by the way, I've heard a lot of people saying that Prince Puma was in the Jaguar tribe, but that's never been confirmed. Like, Jaguars and Pumas are not the same thing.
Yeah, they're completely distinct from one another, so.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't wait for Ultima Lucha Dose. It's gonna be so good.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of droned on long enough. Is there any other kind of storylines that we've completely forgotten to talk about?
No, dude, I think we're good. We probably did forget stuff, but I'm tapped out. I think we covered all the pertinent.
Honestly, I think the one thing that we are going to end up seeing that isn't a part of a match specifically, I think we're going to get not only a little bit more progression in the actual match itself, but also a big revelation in the final 5-minute compilation thing. Cobra Moon and Daga.
Ooh, that's right. Yeah.
I've already suggested that she do like some kind of like a snake skin thing to like trap him and then kidnap him, like what Marty did with the silk cocoon to Sexy Star.
Right.
But I don't know for sure. I mean, maybe, if she's supposed to be a cobra, they are hybrids in that the sense that they can kill via venom or constriction. So maybe she'll do a little constricting of her own on Daga.
Dude, what I would love, because I think Lucha Underground could pull it off, and that's the only reason I'm putting it forward. If, like.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at a stupid joke that I have to get out. Maybe she'll constrict Daga's cobra.
But,
That was really bad, and I'm sorry if that offended anyone, but I had to say it.
Dude, I know brain vomit all too well. You're good on my side of the woods, brother. But what I wanted to say was, it would be really cool if, like, because we know with Drago, we know he's in his dragon form when he breathes fire. With Aerostar, we know he's traveling either through space or time.
Actually, I will say this. I don't think Drago necessarily breathes fire. I think that the flames that kind of we see when he goes behind a wall are just the flames of El Inframundo when he goes back home.
Right, okay. But either way, like, you know shit's going down when that happens.
Right.
You know shit's going down when, like, Sparks with Aerostar when he begins flying.
Right.
I would love, now they could probably top this. They really probably could. But I would even love, like, shadow play almost, where Dago's almost like, hey, get away with me. And then you see the shadows and, like, she, like, grows larger or something, and you see the constriction.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, wait, what are you doing? No! And then he just passes out. Like, we think he's dead, but no, she only, like, knocked him unconscious. And then, yeah, she just slithers back with him, and you kind of hear the slithering sound effects, like, where is she taking him?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that would be amazing and horrifying at the same time.
Yeah, that would be sick.
Dude, this is gonna be so good! I can't wait. Cannot wait.
Oh, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, man. I got nothing else to say, though. You got anything else?
I've got nothing else, man. I'm spent. We've been doing this for frickin', 75 minutes now, an hour 15 or so. I think it's time to call it. If you have any closing words before I go on my, plug rant, you can go ahead.
Guys, I mean, again, if you're watching this, I assume you already watched Lucha Underground, but anybody who hasn't, that you may even know, spread the freaking word. Tell them marathon through it. If you could do it with Game of Thrones or House of Cards, you could do it for Lucha Underground, because Ultima Lucha Dose is can't miss. I promise you that. It is looking fucking stacked. I can't wait.
Yeah. All right, guys. So obviously Ultima Lucha Dos is extremely close. It is July 2nd, technically, right now, because it is after midnight when we're recording this at the time. And the first episode of Ultima Lucha Dos is July 6th. So just a little less than 7 days away, or a little less than 6 days away. 5. I'm horrible at math. A little less than 5 days away.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Yeah, so and that's just part one. We've got two more parts, but the sad thing is, after July 20th, no more Lucha Underground for a couple months. Now, I'm hoping that season 3 begins airing in September, maybe October, if we're like, because I've heard fall. I'm hoping for September. I really think it would be amazing if, like, the first Wednesday in September, boom, Lucha Underground season 3, suck it, WWE, you might actually want to try now. But they're not going to
Exactly.
anyway because it's WWE and they don't give a shit during the fall.
That's so true.
And hey, even more beautiful, Wednesday is the one day a week it feels like that no football ever happens.
I
so
know, right?
um so yeah, I mean, just Lucha Underground during the fall would be optimal, not only because then it's much closer and we don't have to wait until 2017 for season 3, but also, and more importantly, because then they would be capitalizing on a lot of very angry wrestling fans who are pissed off at how lazy the WWE gets during the fall for whatever reason.
Yeah, dude, I completely agree. I think that would work out perfectly for Lucha Underground. Certainly wrestling fans everywhere, so they could still be captivated during that period.
Yeah.
I would love it. You would love it. Hopefully it happens.
All right. So that being said, guys, the next video that we put up is going to be a Raw video. It's going to be our Titwow video, and then, of course, Twitwow for that. But until then, there's so much stuff that you can do if you want to talk with us or pick our brains. If you have any very specific questions that you would like for us to answer, you have a ton of different places you can pose them. For our Q&A video that's coming on July 29th, and I believe that the best place to do that would probably be either in the comments section on YouTube or on Twitter. And all you have to do if you want to know our Twitter or our Facebook information or the subreddit or even the Patreon is go to an episode of Raw, NXT, or Lucha Underground, Titwow or Twitwow, and the background there has all the information you'll ever need on it. But as far as the Patreon goes, the only reason we started that, well, the biggest reason we started that, I can't say it's the only reason, but the biggest reason we started that, we want to get Twitwell back on iTunes. It was on iTunes for the first 3 years of its existence, and it ended up adding up to well over $400 out of my pocket. And I would like to start doing sort of a crowdsourced version of Twitwell on iTunes, in the sense that we get up to $20 a month, and Twitwell goes back on iTunes for as long as the Patreon is at or above $20 a month. If you are donating to Patreon, if you pay $5 a month or more, which is, I mean, $5 a month is less than, it's close to half of the WWE Network price. And we put out a shit ton more content than they do, and it's new and original content rather than just, oh, here's a bunch of shit that happened in the 1980s. Have fun with that. And yeah, we're at this point we're putting out 7 videos a week minimum, and that's on weeks that we don't do any extra videos like this one, or live reactions to a pay-per-view, or a topical discussion, or a Q&A video, which is going to be a once a month thing from now on. And there would probably be all 7 of those videos on iTunes if we were able to get up to the $20 a month thing on Patreon. If you donate $5, as I was saying earlier, a minimum of $5 a month, you can donate however much you want. But if you get to $5 or more, we will personally add you, as long as you request it, to the Twitwell VIP Facebook group. It is a closed group, so you can't get in unless we add you personally. And we are not adding anybody that isn't ourselves unless they are donating $5 or more to the Patreon. And what that gives you is, first of all, more personal and close access to us, because we answer everything that we can in there. But also, you're going to be getting raw MP3 files of Twitwow content, and you'll have access to that then before anyone else. Plus, because it's an MP3 form and we're not back on iTunes yet, it's even more convenient because you can put it on your phone and then you don't have to have YouTube open while you're exercising or running or working out or in your car or whatever, because I know YouTube does tend to burn through battery quite a lot. That being said, guys, all the plugs out of the way. This has been an amazing discussion. I can't wait for Ultima Lucha Dos, and we will see you then.